everyone, and welcome once again to my next blog post. My name is Alan Chisco. I'm a motion graphics artist. All right, today we're going to take a look at traveling glints. You probably know what it is that I'm talking about. Let's say you had a little composition like you've got set up here and sort of a fuzzy background, and you got a little carrier down here. Some might call it a lower third, and you want to just sort of make this look a little bit snazzier, right? You want to have a little highlight that kind of travels along this this little thing that you've made here. Well, there are a few different ways that I like to go about creating those little traveling glints and highlights, and I'm going to show them to you today. So I'll just quickly describe the setup that I've got right here. I've got one, actually I think I can just get rid of that, can't I? Yeah, I can. I've got a fractal noise effect here. If you take a look at that, you can get all the settings that I used. And I'll just turn that off. You can see, there it is. I've also got something which I call lower third. I'm going to zoom out one here, and you can see it's just a quick little mask that I made. Okay, and I've got a couple of effects on there. Stroke, just to put a little brown stroke around the edge there. Bit of a drop shadow, just to make it, well, a drop shadow. Separation from the foreground and the background is what I put that in for. I've also got something called the color layer, and this just has a simple ramp on it that I've applied the linear light transfer mode to it. And if you took a look at my news intro fundamentals post, you'll know that you can get some really nice light effects when you do that kind of thing. So, and the other one is a pretty much duplication of my lower third layer, except I applied a, let me just get rid of those. We don't need to see those. Goodbye. I've got a ramp effect applied, and change that to the add transfer mode, and all that does, it sort of, gives a little bit more solidity down there, so that I can, let's say I was going to put somebody's name or something on there. It's a lower third. It's a carrier. Anyway, so the idea that what we want to accomplish here is we want to have some little traveling glints and highlights that travel along there. Okay. Well, let's get to it. First, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a solid here, and I'm going to call this Glint Vegas. Okay, now some of you might be wondering, well, what does Las Vegas have to do with a traveling glint? Well, it doesn't have anything to do with the city. It does have something to do with, let's go up here. Look at that. Okay, Effects and Presets palette. Vegas, and look at that, there's an effect called Vegas in here. So what I'm going to do with my layer selected is I'm going to double click on that, and we're going to see absolutely nothing here. Okay, first thing that I have to do to get this to work is I want to select my lower third layer. Now there was a reason, I'll just turn Vegas off here for a minute, there was a reason that I created this with a mask, okay? And there's another reason why I created the mask a lot bigger than the actual composition here, and we'll get to all those in a second here. But the important thing is that I want to select the layer that I have the mask there, and I'm going to hit the letter M. When you do that, you can see that you see the mask that was created on this layer. So what I'm going to do, with that selected, I'm just going to Control-C, which is going to copy it. I'm going to go up to my Glint Vegas layer. I'll turn that back on now, and I'm going to paste. Okay, there it is right there. But that doesn't look much like a glint at all. That looks like a great big, well, a white lower third holder. All right, let's get to it now. We'll get more into the plugin here so that you can see what I'm going to be doing. First thing I'm going to do is change the from image contours to mask path. Actually, you know what? I won't do that just yet. I'm going to keep that for a second so you can see why I'm going to make that change in a minute. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to rendering. I'm going to change this from over to transparent. Okay, now if I hit Control-Shift-H, you can see we've got this little traveling doodads down here. Okay, now if I were to open up my, where the heck are we here? Segments, there we are. Rotation is what I'm looking for. Watch what happens when I click on rotation. Okay, you can see that. It's sort of, well, it sort of looks like those lights in a marquee that you see, like a storefront marquee or a theatrical marquee. And presumably that's why they called it Vegas, because there are a lot of marquees in Vegas. But of course what we just want to have like one or two glints going on there. We don't want to have a whole bunch of them here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change my segments to 1, just like that. I'm going to zoom out just so that we can see it a little bit bigger. I'm going to make the width a lot bigger so that we can just be a little more clear with what it is that we're looking at here. Change the hardness a little bit to, there we go. So now it sort of just looks like a stroke, doesn't it? Okay. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click on rotation, and you can see, okay, it's going backwards right now, but you can see it now just sort of rotates around sort of like that. Now it's looking a little bit more glint-like, but the trouble is it starts right here and then it slowly fades off, and it ends. You can barely see it, but it ends right here. We want to make this a lot shorter, okay? So, and the way that we do that is we go to something called, well, there you go, length. I'm going to make that smaller, and now you can see we have a nice small little, more of a glint traveling type thing here. So I'm going to change this to white, and there we go, and we've got rotation here, and you can see, yeah, look at that. Hey, that's a little bit of a traveling glint line. You can play around with all the other elements that you got here. That's probably way wider than I would want it. Sort of like that might do the trick. And then, of course, you want to add on the old transfer mode, eh? Why not? That just sort of makes it a little more interesting. Put a little bit of a blur on it and such. And now what you do is, when you go to the start of your composition, I'll zoom out a little bit. I'm going to position my rotation, or my glint. Let's start it off right there. Oh, but look a little bit closer, okay? I'm going to zoom in here. And you can see we've got a kind of a wraparound effect going on here. We don't want that, like when we're viewing this. Even though it's outside of title safe, it's possible that people might view this and it's not elegant. It doesn't look right, okay? And that's why I was talking at the very beginning about changing from image contours to mask path. Watch what happens when I do that. Actually, before I do that, Control-Shift-H, that's going to unhide all of the things that I had hidden there. And you can see right now it sort of goes, it follows the image contours in your composition. I'm going to change it to mask path. And there we go. We see, well, nothing. Because now, once we do that, we have to change the path to mask number 1. There we go. We're back to where we want to be now. I'll move this over. And now when I do my rotation here, you can see, yes, it doesn't go down there. Now it's actually following the path as it goes. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted this mask, when I created it, to be a little bit bigger, so that because it's bigger, when it wraps around, it's following this, but you can't see it. But because it's outside of the composition here, it's just going to make things a little bit cleaner looking. So there you go. We'll move that up there. I'm just going to go Control-H, or Control-Shift-H, I should say. And at this point, all we have to do now is do a couple of keyframes here. We'll there it is there. It's starting there, so I'll put a keyframe at the start of my composition there. With the layer selected, I'll hit the U key. That'll show my keyframe. And then I'll go, well, however long we want the traveling glint to happen, and we'll change the rotation here. There it is. There it comes. There it goes. And it's off right now. All right, so there we go. That's our first little traveling glint that we've got there. You can see it's sailing along there just fine. Okay, the next one that we're going to do is the same kind of idea. We're going to have another traveling thing, but instead of using the Vegas effect, we're going to use a lens flare effect. And this is how it works. First thing that I want to do is I want to create a solid. Now, it's got to be black, this one. Okay, I'll show you why in a minute. And I'm going to call this glint flare and hit the OK button. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to my effects and presets here, and I'm going to type in lens. All right, and there's something here called generate lens flare. Look at that. I'm going to double click on that, and we're going to see it show up right here. Okay, now I'm just using the stock After Effects lens flare. It's got quite a lot of stuff going on here. You might want to try another package like null lens flare or some such thing, but you'll get the idea, and you can do this with your version of After Effects here. So first thing I'm going to do, remember I asked you to do a black solid, so that way when I change my transfer mode to add, you can see, all right, there we go. It's sort of looking like something there. Now I'm going to change my flare center just so we can see how it's going to look to this line, because this is the line that we want it to travel across. Now I could keyframe this position that we have here. It's the flare center, but we've got this little area right in here. Okay, no problem if you do keyframe a straight line, but when you get some curves in there, that's when you're going to run into trouble. Okay, now here's a neat little tip that not many people know about. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select my lower third layer. Now remember, I created this using a mask. Okay, and we're going to use this mask again to our project here, and I'll show you. First thing I'm going to do is hit the M key. That brings up the mask. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Mask Path, okay? And I'm going to hit Control-C. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this mask path. You can see we've got the little I-beam selected there. Now I'm going to go up to the glint flare. Let me just turn off Vegas there. Glint flare, and I'm going to hit the E key. That's going to open up effects. Here's our lens flare. I'm going to open up that twirly, and we've got something called flare center. Okay, so I'm going to select flare center, and this of course refers to a position right here, and I'm going to do Control V. Watch what happens when I paste. we get this little thing here. I'm going to zoom into my timeline, and we get these funny little keyframes that appear here, and watch what happens. Look at that. Goes around just like that. Okay. What I did is I copied the mask, and it's using the exact mask contours. Watch what happens right in here. It follows it exactly. Okay. So you can copy masks, and you can paste them into positional attributes. You could do this if you had a solid or something that you wanted to track around there. You just open up the position for the solid, and you can paste the mask information into those parameters. It's pretty cool, isn't it? Okay, so now, of course, right now, if we look at our lower third, this is the mask. Right now, our lens flare is probably traveling somewhere down there, and if we cruise along here, now it's starting to move up, and now it's starting to, there we go, coming along right there. Okay, now one other thing that I'm going to do here, because kind of the trouble is, well, it sort of starts right there, and it sort of goes along, and it ends right there, right? We want it to start somewhere over here and end somewhere over here. So I'm going to actually add a little bit of an effect to this, or not an effect, an expression to it, okay? And the flare center, I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to go down to, I can never remember where this one, it's property, isn't it? There it is. Well, you probably can't see that, but well, is there any way that I can show this to you? Yes, I can maximize this. I'm going to go to, where the heck were we now? There we go. Sorry, I couldn't see that there for a second. Go down to property, and I want to loop out this one right here. Type equals cycle, number of keyframes equals that. And all I'm going to do is apply that right now, okay? Now, when we minimize this again, and let's see here, I might have to zoom out a little bit more. Watch what happens. Comes along, and it just keeps on going. Okay, it's a little loop expression. It's just going to keep on going around and around and around now. So now all I have to do is start it to, it'll probably be right about there, and that's probably where I'd start my layer, just like that, and then it comes along and it goes out there, and that would be the end of my layer. Okay, sort of like that. Now, of course, it's going to glint on really heavily when it gets here. There's nothing, and all of a sudden, pop, we see all these type things. So you'd probably also want to animate the lens flare brightness here. Start this off at 0, and then right about here, you want to move it up to, grab it onto it at 100%. Well, actually less than 100%, sort of like that. Okay, so that way it won't pop on. It'll just sort of appear on. There we go. Anyway, you get the idea. So using masks, copy masks, and you can paste them into your positional attributes for your lens flare. Okay, next one now. We're going to turn off that glint flare that we've got, and we're going to create one more. And this one is actually going to use some more effects. We're going to use some trap code stuff for this one. So first thing I'm going to do is create another solid. I'm going to call this glint trap code. And I'm going to hit OK. And where the heck are we? I'm going to zoom out a little bit. We'll just start at the beginning again. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste that mask again. Okay, I'm going to hit the M key. There it is. I'm going to copy the mask. Where are we here? Copy mask, Control C. I'm going to go up to my trap code one, and I'm going to paste. Okay, there's our mask. Next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go up to Effect, Trap Code, 3D Stroke. Okay, and there we go. We've got a bit of a stroke that's going on there. Now, we're not going to necessarily use the 3D attributes of 3D stroke, but what we are going to use is, well, actually, let's just position it first. I'm going to change the start, just drag it all the way over to there, just like that, okay? So it's quite a small little stroke that we've got there, and I'm going to open up Taper here, which is this one here, and I'm going to enable it. Watch what happens with our little doodad here. When I do that, there we go. Now it's sort of looking like a little, well, a little tapered line type thing. Then we go up here, and we're going to click on Loop. And when I play with the offset here, you can see, there we go. We've got another little traveling glint that goes along there. Quite similar to the first one we did, right? But this one has, well, I don't know. It's just a different way of doing it, really. And what I would do at this point is I'd probably, well, because it's such a funny-looking taper there, I'd go up to Blur, where we blur and sharpen, fast blur. And give it a little bit of a, just sort of like that. Now, if you want, you can be done here right now. Change the transfer mode, and you've got, once you animate your offset, hit the U there, start that there, and once we animate that, what am I doing here? There we go. It'll just travel along there. And let me actually go to the start. We'll start it off, just like that. back it up. There we go. And we'll zoom in a little bit, and now you can see that as we drag along in our timeline, there it is, and it kind of travels up and goes around perfectly. Looks nice, eh? Now, usually if I were to do this, you know, you can do a lot more other things with this. You can play around with some effects that you've got there. I'd probably play around with the thickness. Where are we here? Thickness. There we go. Make that a lot more subtle, just sort of like that. And just for fun, I might go up to Effect, Trap Code, Star Glow. And you get a nice little glint happening there. Now you can see that as we drag it along, oh yes, there we go. It's kind of an interesting looking one. Now the powerful thing about this is when you do this, it's really easy to make it bigger or smaller. Okay, if we go up to our 3D stroke here, you can see that, where the heck are we here? Start, thickness, start, end. Okay, watch this. There we go. Now we got a great big one just by changing the start parameter there here. We still got the thing moving along, and now it's just a great big thing that just kind of crawls along there. So you've got a lot of flexibility if you're using 3D stroke for your little traveling glints here. So there we go. I hope that was pretty clear for everybody, and that gives you a few ideas and stuff that you could do to create some interesting travels and glints. The key for all of these, all three of them, is that you want to create the thing that you're going to be tracking with a mask. Oopsie, there we go. With a mask, and once you've got that mask, you've got a lot of options on things that you can do for creating the traveling glints. So, hope that was good for everybody, and Happy New Year to all of you out there as well. And we'll talk to you again soon. Okay.